All good. It's all yours.
Got it. Okay. Well, hi, there's some familiar faces there. And I said yes to Shirley because it is a dream for me to integrate astrology into my daily work more. And I feel that if I'm going to be talking about these things out loud, then I need to be doing it myself and making sure that at every opportunity I'm living what I know and understand myself. And that would be what I'd want for all women, tomorrow. That would be my message ultimately for all women tomorrow on International Women's Day. So yes, my dream, I feel inspired by Shirley's work. And she's such an incredibly real woman. And I think that this time in the 20s really calls for us to be real. There's no more pretending about anything and pretending about the life that we live. We're really being called to something very real. And it is about finding our voices. So this is my first live stream, but I'm facing those little moments of fear and intrepidation, but it's so welcoming to be supported by people out there who actually do know me as well. So gratitudes for all the opportunities and for all the ways that I'm being heard today. So never being short on a thing to say, I think I better get going. So I'm going to, there's so much I really could share. I'm not quite sure how much I'm going to be able to share tonight in terms of time frames. I do tend to lose myself in this amazing big cosmic world of astrology. But if we go right back to the 1920s, to the roaring 20s, when there was talks about sexual morality, immigration, there was big discussions on gender politics. It was after the World War I when, the American people were feeling really wild and bold and, like they had it all. And then here we are now in the 2020s. And it's going to be a really big decade as well. And there's so many profound astrological things that are happening, so many patterns and cycles that are changing and coming to fruition. Really unique cycles starting. And so some of the key zodiac signs, which each carry an energy and a psychology to them that I'm going to be talking through tonight, are Capricorn, Aquarius, Pisces, and Taurus. And you're also going to hear me talk about some key planets. And so some big personal planets of Jupiter and Saturn, and then the bigger outer generational planets of Pluto, Uranus, and Neptune, which have really large, slow moving cycles. Some of them, between 84 to 248 years in the cycle. So it's unusual because the series of changes and new beginnings all happening within the next decade is quite extraordinary when you think about the size of the cycles. But then what astrology reminds us about, I think, is that everything in life is a cycle. And in this point in our living history, I think we've become so far removed from cycles and our understanding of how that all works and fits in. So this decade actually started in December, well, not really, where I'm going to start with this decade, in December 2020, where we saw the beautiful Christmas star of the planet Jupiter and Saturn sitting aligned or side by side, or in astrology, we call it conjunct. So planets always carry energies or personalities of their own, big energies. Think about it like the actor in a play. And they have big energies. So here we have Saturn and Jupiter moving into the sign of Aquarius. So the zodiac signs also have energies that they carry. And all the signs that we're talking about tonight are the big humanitarian signs, the signs of governance and government, and of the desire for connection and to bring all things together. So there is the first really significant synchronicity around the power of this time. So the big deal around the Saturn and Jupiter coming together in that conjunction was that it moved, these two planets, personal planets, moved into an air sign. And prior to that, they had been in Capricorn. And prior to that, they'd been in a series of other earth signs. So for a very long period of time, since 1842, we have been seeing these two planets come together in their 20-year cycles, but still within earth signs. So what we've seen happening in that time from 1842, when these guys were conjunct in the earth sign, we saw the Industrial Revolution, which has really changed our lives forever in ways that at the time we wouldn't have ever seen as being imaginable. You know, we would never have imagined machines and factories and electricity, and the way that our agriculture shifted from something really subsidiary to mass production and global exports, you know, huge things. So this series of Saturn and Jupiter coming together in earth signs stopped in December 2020 and moved into the air sign of Aquarius, which is the humanitarian sign. So understanding that Jupiter is always about expansion and growth, and Saturn is always around, it represents structure and rulers and the prevailing establishment and restrictions and limitations. So when these two guys come together, there's always going to be a tension or a playoff between the opposing natures of these signs. And usually when they come together, it's fairly congruent with new styles of leadership and economic trends. I guess the Indigenous people at the time knew that this big conjunction, this Christmas star at the end of December 2020, was a massive time. They'd seen it in all their prophecies right from the very beginning. And it was a big time for them, as they had big healing ceremonies out at Uluru, you know, the umbilical center of a space that I'm not going to define. They knew there was massive work to be done for the rebirth of the planet, for all things. And, you know, they're entitled, to me, I view it that they're entitled to privacy around these very sacred rituals, because they came from ancient laws and understandings that still probably remain innately foreign to us. So, you know, I guess from the outset, it suggests to us it's okay, just like the people at the beginning of the Industrial Revolution couldn't begin to imagine what it was going to be like. It's okay for us also as peoples to you know, not know what all the changes are going to be like, but we can actually begin to imagine, and that's where astrology can give us some beautiful insights. Because if we understand air signs, we understand that it's so those sort of powers moving and pressures moving into the air signs, it's all about what we think. It's all around ideas. It's all about airwaves and frequencies. So, you know, Aquarius, the sign itself, is represented by the lady who pours out knowledge from a vessel. So we can imagine a pouring out of new ways of thinking, of higher awarenessness, consciousness, humanitarian thinking, but also freeing us from the old rigid concepts that we think is normal and regular and the way it is. You know, even the role of our mind will change, and how we view thinking will change. And, you know, we will find ourselves thinking, considering a thought of something perhaps that happens outside of our body as an energy that we can tap into. And where does that type of concept take us? You know, it can take us into exploring telepathy, and it can also, thinking about airwaves and all things Aquarius, take us to what's happening in the airways beyond what's visible to us. So we already know that the Pentagon has set up a new office for UFOs and alien intelligence and communication. So, you know, new ideas and new communications, possibly in new dimensions that some people are still really not knowing what to make of. So, you know, in 2040, Saturn and Jupiter will come together again in the air sign of Libra. And so, you know, we can then begin to imagine that by 2040, you know, we are seeing new harmonies on our Earth. and new understandings of human cooperation, and how thought can work. And perhaps with a focus on new types of relationships rather than economies, which is very key with all that Capricorn stuff that we've been coming through as a world. So I do want to keep on talking about Capricorn, even though Saturn and Jupiter have worked their way through it. The planet of Pluto is still working its way through Capricorn and will do so until the end of 2024. So we're going to see all things Pluto and Capricorn continue. So what does that mean? So Pluto is the sign that's represented by the themes of death, birth, regeneration, rejuvenation. It speaks of all things of the underworld, of all the dark, of all the shadow, all the things that don't want to be seen. But of course, Pluto is also the planet of transformation. So for transformation to occur, these things must be seen. So, Pluto and Capricorn tells us that we will be seeing some of these dark things in our world for the next little while. But that's okay, because astrology has given us some other beautiful things to balance that off with. I think if we can understand that, the tearing down of things and the uprooting of everything we know, even though it's an inconceivable thing and really threatens our basic sense of safety and security, that it's the only way that we can really have rebirth. So if we look at this time as a form of initiation, or rebirth, if you go back as women and you imagine, that child leaving the safety of the womb and actually coming down through a very dark channel, feeling lots of pressure, knowing that the only way forward is to be out into the world, being shaped by the pressures as the child comes through this passageway, being guided by all the actions and forces that are happening around it. And there is no going back. So that's why sometimes people talk about this time as a period of initiation, of testing and rebirthing. So what it means for me, I think, is, it means that we need to be organised, and we need to have clear thinking about what sort of government or governance we want. What do we want to hold on to, and what really matters? What do we imagine? And we'll see the world order evolve. I guess we're seeing that all happen and play out right now, as we watch eagerly to see what the role of NATO does in the world order, what will change there, what control, what structures will remain in place, what structures will change in the world order. So we're seeing it and experiencing it most in our personal lives as well, at that global level, the macro and the micro, and everything beyond. Interestingly enough, the United States of America went through its Pluto return. So Pluto 248 years later. So, when it was born as the new free country, and it's known a lot of power, but it'll be interesting to see how the Pluto transformation leaves the United States shifting, what choices they will make about where they sit in the world order, and how they will view cooperation, because their Pluto return actually was on the 20th of February 2022. So lots of twos there, lots of talking about cooperation. What will their cooperation look like? How will they balance their new identity? And interestingly enough, still with the Capricorn theme, the new moons this year started in Capricorn and will end in Capricorn. So it just says to me that this is a year where we do need to be very organised, and even the new moon cycles, beginning and ending, suggest, make a plan, know what your goals are, really look at your thinking. And we've heard these things before. Really, is there places that you were being rigid? where can we replace it using Capricorn words with more mature ways of thinking? Be kind and not cold. Remember the Christmas season, goodwill, and bring that to the fore. Think about the ways that we're being controlling. Acknowledge these and focus this on, on the awareness of this, and because that is the purpose of a new moon. It's to set very clearly our intentions. So intention is focused energy. And, look, there might be new traditions, thinking Capricorn again, new traditions that you want to bring on board, carry forward, that meet us with our new living choices. So I'm going to leave Capricorn and go to Uranus. So Uranus actually is very closely connected with Aquarius, and I've already spoken around some of the energies of Aquarius. But Uranus is the planet of change, and sometimes it's sudden change, sometimes it happens through crisis. But it's all about bringing in new inspired ideas and thinking beyond the self. It's humanitarian-based thinking. And Uranus is currently in the sign of Taurus, and it moved there. It's been there since 2018. And basically, if you sum up all the energies of what it means for Uranus in Taurus, it comes down to the slogan of, for me anyway, change the earth. Change the earth. Taurus is an earth sign. Change the earth for stability and peace and unity. So that would be a really simplistic cry that I would have. But it also, it flags an incredible time, incredible urgency of time to be working with the earth for change. Into 2025, we're going to move from all the earth signs and water signs that we're experiencing now into the zodiac signs in the element of fire and air. So the dynamic is really different. So now is a beautiful time to be working, grounding ourselves in the earth sign, doing our work, building new foundations, and getting ready for all the new ideation that is being flagged by that first Christmas star I mentioned at the beginning. So, what does that look like? Uranus in Taurus, making connections with the earth in all ways, earth medicines, earth-based diets, understanding the frequencies that food hold. And obviously this is something that Shirley's known and has been very passionate about for a long time with her work with her oils. Understand the medicinal purposes of foods in our body and how the frequencies of the foods can bring about healing. It could be a call to local foods so we can dissociate ourselves from the ethics of the big industrial structures and build and support our communities, making connections there. Learn about the earth, study it, plant trees, rebel against earth abuse, resources, revolutionize our concept of resourcefulness. And, we can be asking ourselves the question, well, how is it that I can contribute to an earth rebirth? It doesn't have to be astoundingly big. It just is, it is just making a step. But I guess for me, it also does flag the significance of making the healing connections with the Indigenous people who actually hold the laws of the land, the absolute intimate knowledges of the land, because they will hold them tight for me, I believe they will hold them tight if they don't feel that they can be placed in a position of trust. I guess in that way, then COVID can be seen as an agent of change. I don't know if people likewise embrace that view, but it did make us rethink the houses that we lived in, the spaces that we lived in, the spaces that were important, the finances, all these Capricorn things around structure. Our veggie gardens, supporting local, and thinking and monitoring our health. So that was the power, I think, of, combining the Uranic energy that was out there occurring through Taurus, as well as the Pluto energy that was grounding on our through our world also was the implications that came to the surface with COVID. Working together for change and thrusting us through this initiation process. As we saw the government reactions, structure, government authority, Capricorn, Pluto and Capricorn, people pushing for freedom, Aquarius. As I think about that, I think if we all think about it, we could probably identify all the really earth structural based ways that we did make changes in that time. And being true to Pluto, I would dare suggest that most of the changes that were triggered to be made in that time were changes we probably won't go back on. I don't know if people experienced it that way. But Pluto is usually around absolutely transformation. There is no going back. There's only just inertia forward. I'm just looking at time. I think I'll skip, there was another little thing there, but I think I'll skip to talking about the time of Pisces, because Pisces is a sign, it's a water sign. And there's a lot happening in Pisces also at the moment, and beautiful expansive opportunities with this water sign. The water sign is very, very fluid, so very deep and often related to our emotions, the ocean, the depth of our feeling and the depth of our creativity. So Jupiter has been in Pisces. He started there very briefly back last year, and he'll be with us for most of this year. So I just love the way that the cosmic energies have given us this at the same time as the Pluto stuff is happening. So to understand why it's a wonderful thing to have Jupiter in Pisces, because Pisces, I guess, is related to all things spiritual, of all things deeper, like I suggested. So when you have Jupiter in the water sign, we can expect to see more abundance, more creativity, more empathy, more union in the world. It's sort of Jupiter in Pisces sort of captures the whole hippie thing of world peace. And it reminds us to coexist with each other, to bring forth compassion and kindness. So this transit, and coupled with all the synchronicities of all the Plutonic and Capricorn breaking down of structures, it probably assists us to be more proactive in the community and understand the power and the hope that connecting with community can bring us, based on our shared values and our shifting values, perhaps, or unfolding of new values. And then even more to the Pisces theme is Pisces having a little conjunction or sitting side by side Neptune in Pisces. So, it's really blending, on romance and creativity, again, with that deeper sense of the Neptune divinity and spirituality, because Neptune speaks of all things unified, all oneness, the divineness, the sacredness, the next level sense of feeling, the soulfulness, all those beautiful words. And it's likely to be, and we can already see that it's probably reshaped our pop culture a little bit. We're seeing that in some of the things that are being talked about in the media, in the music, in movies, that My Teacher, the Octopus movie. And there's been this incredible resurgence back into astrology as people are really looking for a wonderful framework for having those deeper conversations about things that matter. So I guess it's sacred relationship is really powerful because it's soulful and it moves us deeply. And if we hold something in sacred relationship, then we're more likely to stand up for it, to fight for it. Dr. Emoto's famous work that he did with energy and rice and water showed us that indifference is more putrid than anger. So now is not the time for indifference. And so I think the Pisces energy is profound call for connection and action, not indifference. So, you know, strong messages, strong things to be considered around what you can make sacred in your life and how you can change your life structures, blending it with the Capricorn thing at a home level. You know, what's sacred? Is it your family dinner? Is it the bees in the backyard? A play date with your husband or children? Is it your meditation in the morning, scanning your body, taking care of your health and well-being? But it also implores us to dream, and most of you probably know that I'm quite passionate about dreams because I think it's a new edge in psychology, you know, and most of all, I think it really is around shifting our stories of the mind into trusting our intuition, which is something I think, you know, was so easily lost in the world that we live in. So it's a rediscovering of our intuition and what our thinking, what our minds are capable of. So we've just been through the most beautiful new moon in Pisces, which there's no time to talk about, but again, the timing doesn't go unescaped. It just reinforces that, and we've seen this extraordinary weather events. My grandson Noah was born on the new moon and the time of the flooding, so we'll joke about who he's bringing together in what vehicle, but we have seen the outpouring of love and faith and hope, people who individually don't feel hope until they actually are touched by the energy of the connections of others. There's a whole story about the nodes that we don't have time for tonight, Cheryl, but it just reinforces the story really strongly, and maybe we can explore that. But yeah, so I think the time of Aquarius, shifting our thinking and our awareness. Pluto's doing her work, as painful as it is, exposing the dark and asking us to let go. Pisces, who knows that, you know, things can be deeply painful and grief and loss. Pisces knows all about that, but asking us to be inspired and connected at the same time. And it's not a mistake that Pisces is there so strongly sitting beside Pluto, particularly this year, which is why this year is such a profound year to be moving beyond indifference, if any of us are still left feeling that. And I haven't had a chance to talk about Taurus, and that's tied up with the North Node, which is the little spiritual compass for us as people living in this world collectively, because it is a collective call. And it is really about knowing your voice and what it is that you want to say, what you want to speak out for, or speaking to what's important, probably is another way of saying it. But tuning into your intuition and growing to trust it. Pisces wants us to be inspired and connected. So our voice should be inspired and connected. I guess singing is the way of being gentle and connecting with our soul. And Taurus also says, know what you want to be devoted to. So I'm aware of the time, and I guess my final little thing would be to say, to make the most of this time where the earth signs and the water signs are prevailing, because it's the water that shapes us and the world we live in, and we've seen that. And it's the earth that heals us. And be open to the Pisces of our spirit and intuition guiding us beyond the stories of our mind, opening to something beyond. Yeah.
That's beautiful, Jenny. That's just beautiful. Thank you so much. And I love how you did a little wrap up there of all of the key points. I know that many of us were madly writing down all of your little gems of wisdom that kind of landed, that we had some kind of visceral response to. And to me, one of the big ones was your little your mantra that to change the world for stability, peace and unity is really potent, I think, at this time. And then how sacred relationships inter as well as intra. And yeah, that's just beautiful. Thank you. Yeah. Has anyone got any questions that can be quickly answered by Jenny? Feel free to unmute or put your hand up if I happen to have muted you. So I
was just going to quickly ask. Hi, Shirley.
Hi, Sandy.
Is this, so I, came across this link from you, Shirley, and joined a little late, unfortunately. And I see it's been recorded. So is this going to be shared through the email link with the recording, or is that recording being shared?
It can be. I can share it. Okay. Would you like to see it from the beginning?
I would love that, yes.
Yeah.
So I had a bit of trouble getting on through my phone. I didn't have any sound, so then I had to get onto my computer.
Okay, yeah, no worries. Yeah, I will.
Great.
Yes, I will have it to share a link. So that's absolutely, yeah. So Jenny is open. I'll just rehash that for you, Sandy. So Jenny is open to doing personal astrology readings. If anyone's interested, then if you know her, of course, you can reach out to her directly. If not, I can hook you up. I can get you connected with Jenny, and it's well worth it. That's for sure. To have a little bit of insight into your own birth chart and how that plays out is, it always astounds me how accurate it all is. So yeah. I love how you also wove in there about the intuition and how there's a shift in our thinking and how that also taps into the dreams and the whole psychology of everything, Jenny. So I know that's going to be just perfect. So yeah. I'm actually mindful of the time. Well. Yep.
So I was just going to ask, so with the stuff we were briefly touching on with the dreams and the psychology, do you have any further information around that? You sort of touched on it a little bit, but I'm actually a psychologist. That's my field of study. So I'm really interested in, and I've been interested in astrology for years and had astrology readings. So I'm actually really interested in the intersection between psychology and astrology. So I was just wondering if you had any further resources or readings or anything you suggest around that intersection?
Look, to be honest, so at the moment I'm doing a dream facilitation course, and there's so much new information coming out. People are just really learning around where dreams come from, and they're looking at the approach that I've been particularly following is the Jungian approach.
I would imagine.
Yeah. And the power of dreams to get cut right to the chase. So there is actually so much out there about dreams, and I guess the vision of my mentor would be that dreams are set up alongside of counselling and is a recognised tool for working with clients in counselling, psychology type work, understanding that there's a difference there, but yes, as just another modality, a really profound modality.
And it's a big area in and of itself, yes. I suppose. And as you say, Jungian, it would be the go-to for dealing with that unconscious stuff.
Yeah, I don't wish to be evasive there intentionally. It's just such a massive area and such a big topic in itself to be talking about. And it's certainly really fascinating, and like the feedback from people, it's just such a way of guiding you. Really tapping into your own intuition and reading your own symbols and signs as they come to you through your sleep. and then how we can work with them to put those insights into action, you know, to make changes.
Maybe I'll connect with Shirley later to see about information that you're putting out there on that. So thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure. And thank you for joining us tonight, Sandy.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yes. All right, so I'm mindful of the time, and I know that it's that time of evening. So thank you so much, everyone, for coming and joining us this evening. And it's with much gratitude, Jenny, that you shared what you could in half an hour. I know it's something that's a massive thing to unpack, and I really appreciate you with the laser points that you did, and I hope everyone got something of value today, and we will see everyone soon, and yeah, have a lovely evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Shirley.